And this was because I had volunteers. There was 5 of us, so we had 2 volunteers. I have volunteers who were dedicated to making a difference in our lives. And I often say, like, as a CASA volunteer, you are one conversation away from changing the next chapter of a child's life. And that's what happened to me. I had a CASA volunteer see me as a person and not as this aggressive youth that my case file said, not this youth that always like to talk back and never listen to anyone, because the system also does that. They label us and they put all of these stigmas against us. So anybody reading our case files is like, whoa, I don't want to interact with that young person. But at the end of the day, I was a child who had experienced things that was no fault of my own. And I was trying to navigate and express myself in the only way that I knew how. So my CASA volunteers really changed that for me, because I wasn't viewed as a case file number or another number to their caseload. I was a person. And the reason why I was able to open up so much with my CASA volunteers is because our initial meetings were all about getting to know who myself and my siblings were. They asked questions like, what is your favorite color? What do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody ever in my life has ever asked me that. And things that we take for granted or we think is so simple, like having somebody believe in you or tell you that they see you as a young person, it goes a long way. And my CASA volunteers are still very prominent and active figures in my life. They've been to my high school graduations, college graduations, dropped off food to me when I was in college, and still supporting all of my endeavors to this day. And I say that to say, like, as a CASA volunteer, you never know the impact that you'll have on a young person's life. And even if you're encountering a young person that may be more quiet and more timid, meet them where they are. Find out if they like poetry, find out if they like to draw, find out like what is their form of expression, and nurture that. My youngest sibling was someone, she was very young at the time, but I often hear like, well, how do you interact with a 6-year-old? You bring them a coloring book or you ask them what's their favorite toys, and then they'll tell you way more than you need to know. Like, you just have to be flexible and understand that it's not a one for all approach. You have to just be genuine in how you're coming to them. And we understand too that you're not paid for this work. And I think that's what also stood out to me the most, is that you're really dedicating your time to get to know who I am. Not because you have to, but because you were called to do this work in some way or form. And even when you have some of those harder cases, remember your why. Remember why you decided to be a CASA volunteer. And like, know that while I may be here speaking to you all tonight, there are thousands of young people like me, thousands of us. And we just need somebody that's going to give us a platform and space to express ourselves.
Many thanks, Tawanna. We are privileged here at Connecticut CASA to have you with us 2 consecutive weeks, and I have to imagine that in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, when you are even more nationally prominent, perhaps when you've completed law school and gone on to some additional leadership role, we in Connecticut are going to look back and have this video and say, we knew her when she was only what, 22 or whatever you are now. Uh, Already you've accomplished a great deal, and we can tell that you're destined for further great things. So thank you so much. And Judge Tindill as well. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off? It is now 7 o'clock.
I know. Three things I just want to say. Number one, um, I think that what Tawanna describes brings to mind two things. It sounds like her CASA volunteers were good listeners. And I don't know if they were trained in, trauma-informed practices, or if they were just kind people who knew how to listen and how to really engage and connect with young people. But I think if there's any takeaways, um, being a better listener as a CASA volunteer, as a community member, as a neighbor, um, helps move the needle a little bit. And also, we talked about what do we attribute sort of this slow moving iceberg? Why is it that domestic violence policies and practices aren't farther along? And I think part of it, I talked about American culture, but I think part of it too is our loss of community. I think 50 years ago, we had better community structures. We knew our neighbors. We reached out to neighbors. We engaged more with the people we lived around, where we worshiped and worked and played. And I think that has become, for lots of reasons, social media, the internet, who knows, AI, we may only have bots as friends, but I think the loss of community is also part of what is a solution to this. Um, because, as Tawanna points out, so many people don't tell their stories. There's still so much shame and guilt associated with it, that if we were better listeners and engaged more in our communities, we could help further the solutions to this problem. Thank you for having me, Josiah. Tawanna, it's lovely to be in your presence. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you both for this opportunity.
Well, thank you both. Really a tremendous opportunity for us to learn from both of you, and also from Chris Tanasi and others who engaged in the conversation. We really appreciate your sharing. We're grateful to all of you for volunteering your time and for uh, taking the additional evening to learn with us and share. So I'm going to stop the recording, and this will be available.